Why basketball fundamentals are so important. I'm Tony. Welcome back to Streetball Strategies.
I ain't breaking a sweat. I'm coming in first. Yeah, I'm coming up next. The world is mine. It's time to shine. The job ain't done till I'm making headlines.
Today we're talking about why learning fundamentals, mastering them is so important, especially when it comes to outdoor recreational basketball. Because usually when you think fundamentals, basketball fundamentals, you think like serious basketball players. And usually when you think serious basketball players, you think indoor organized players, like young players who intend to play AAU in high school and try to get scholarships to college and maybe even go pro. But you don't usually think fundamentals being so important when it comes to outdoor recreational basketball, because usually out here we're just trying to have fun and maybe trying to build a reputation, and therefore why put in the tedious work of learning fundamentals. But today we're going to talk about why it is so important for you as an outdoor recreational player to not only learn but master your fundamentals. The first reason why learning and mastering fundamentals is so important is because it forces you into the habit of delayed gratification. Delayed gratification is one of the pillars of my personality and thus of this channel, meaning that you do the hard work now so that you can be rewarded for it later. It's a simple enough concept, but what a lot of people out here recreationally at the park, what they think is like, who cares? Like, I don't want to put in the hard work. I just want to have fun. Well, the problem is that if you see, the harder you work now, like the more gratifying your rewards will be later on. If it just comes to you easily, you may like it, you may have a certain level of appreciation for it, but it's not really going to be, substantial. It's not really going to matter to you in the long run. It's not really going to leave an impression on you. You're going to probably take it for granted. But the harder you have to work for something, the more you're going to appreciate it when you do receive whatever awards and accomplishments come from your hard work. So let's say on a process, like a procedural process of like 1 to 10, right? When you're learning your basketball fundamentals, let's say number 1, and this is all hypothetical, of course. Number 1 would be footwork, right? It's the most basic, simple concept and skill when it comes to basketball. Footwork would be number 1. And then at the other end of that scale, at number 10, would be something that you could argue would be one of the hardest, if not the hardest, skill and ability to learn as a basketball player, which is to be a good, consistent three-point shooter in game, in competition. Meaning anybody can become a good three-point shooter when you're just out here by yourself practicing, but can you be a good, consistent three-point shooter when you're in competition with people actively trying to defend that? It just happens that nowadays, three-point shooting is what's the trending, hot, popular ability in basketball. When I was a kid, it was about how high you can jump, and then when you get tall enough, can you dunk? But nowadays, it's how good are you a three-point shooter? How consistent are you? How deep can you shoot? So nowadays, you have players coming out here going, who cares about the fundamentals? Like, who cares about the first 9 steps? I'm gonna skip to the 10th step because I'm out here trying to build a reputation for myself, because I care what people think of me in my game. I don't have time. I'm not gonna put in the time, work, the effort to do the first 9 steps because there's so much, because it's so time consuming, because there's so much hard work that goes into that. I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna skip right to number 10. So then say, hypothetically, you put in, it takes you 3 years, right? 3 years to become a decent three-point shooter in terms of shooting three-pointers in game and competition. It's probably going to take you another 2 years to actually start getting good at being a good, consistent in-game three-point shooter, to the point where people start to notice you, recognize that that's what you do, and that's why they should have you on their team. It's my belief that it took you 5 years to get to that point, and all you did really was concentrate on three-point shooting in that 5-year period. You went from beginner to three-point shooter in 5 years, but really now that's all you have to your game. You're pretty one-dimensional. Whereas if you would have started at the very beginning with step number 1 being footwork and worked your way up to being a three-point shooter, you could have done that entire process in that same 5-year period. Now, how is that possible? How does that work? How can you go through all 10 steps in that 5-year period instead of taking 5 years to only be a three-point shooter? Well, that's because when you start from the beginning and you go through the right, proper process, what you're doing essentially is you're teaching yourself how to learn, and as you learn, you get better and better. You get more effective, you get more efficient. You're essentially starting a momentum when it comes to learning how to do and activate and execute these basketball skills. The better you master step number 1, it's going to make learning step number 2, whatever it happens. Because here's the deal. I think there is an actual process to go through when it comes to learning basketball, especially starting from the very beginning. Certain steps may be in different orders for certain players depending on like what kind of personality you have, what your goals are, what your games are, what your physical capabilities are. Not every step is going to be in the same order for every player. But my point is, if you master step number 1, the better you master that step, it's going to make learning step number 2 easier and faster. And the better you master step number 2, it's going to make learning step number 3 easier and faster. And you're building momentum as you go along. So you can learn those 10 hypothetical steps in that 5 years, as opposed to using 5 years to only really become a 3-point shooter. Instead of trying to chase the 10th step immediately, delay that gratification, go through the right steps. If you go through that process properly, mastering step by step, then you're not only going to be a one-dimensional player, you're going to be an all-around player. Being an all-around player is going to set you apart from most other players out here, because most other players out here are not going to put themselves through that process because it takes too long, it's too much hard work. Because of that, most players out here are more one-dimensional players than they are all-around players. If you can put in that work and become an all-around player and be good at everything when they're only good at 1 or 2 things, that makes you much more valuable out here at the park. Assuming you do that, the next logical question is, okay, how do I streamline that process to make it as quick as possible? Because, it's going to depend, the length of it is going to depend from player to player, like how long it takes you, but how can you make that time period as short as possible? So I think it should be obvious that I can't tell you specifically what drill or workout or practice to do specifically for whatever skill that you're trying to learn, because I don't know you. I don't know your game, your body, your mind. Every player learns differently in different ways. People learn things faster in different ways. It's just how everything goes. And I'm not going to pretend like I can do that. I'm not going to say, hey, do this workout this way. If you do that, then you're going to learn this skill super fast. Maybe you will, maybe you won't. I don't know you. I don't know how your brain, your mind, your body, your game works. The best advice I can give you is to say, make whatever skill you're trying to learn, make it as enjoyable as you can. Enjoyment is the key, because the problem with trying to learn any skill, probably the most frustrating aspect of it is it takes time. You have to make mistakes, learn from those mistakes, and get better. You do that through repetition and trying to make each repetition better than the last one. Those repetitions take up time. That's how time is consumed, with all of the repetitions that are necessary. So what I would say to do is, whatever skill you're working on, go find drills, workouts, practices that have already been pre-made, however you find them, right? Try them for yourself. See what works for you, what doesn't work, what you enjoy, what you don't enjoy. Get rid of the stuff that doesn't work, get rid of the stuff that you don't enjoy, and then find more workouts, more drills, more practices for that same skill, and repeat that process. Essentially what you're doing is you're customizing and curating your own workouts, drills, and practices for yourself. This way you're helping to ensure that not only do they work, that you're making progress, but that you actually enjoy whatever workouts and drills that you're doing. The reason enjoyment is key is because you can force yourself to do other people's workouts and drills and practices. You can force yourself for a limited amount of time, but if you don't actually enjoy those drills and those workouts, you're not going to repeat them long enough or often enough to actually make real progress. You're going to create momentum doing that as well. The more you do it, the better you're going to get at it, the faster you're going to learn. The goal is to want to do these workouts and drills, to look forward to it, to wake up in the morning and be excited to get out of bed and come get on the court to work on these things. The more you enjoy it, the more consistently you're going to be out here. The more consistent you are out here, the more repetitions you're going to get in. The more repetitions you get in, that shortens your window of time to learn and master any skill. A final thought about why mastering fundamentals could be so important. And this may sound off the wall to you, but I'm telling you from my own personal experience, I have witnessed this reaction many times out at the park. What I'm talking about is the fact that we take basketball way more seriously than most of the players out here. We are just outdoor recreational players, like we're not trying to go pro or get a scholarship to college or anything like that, but yet and still we take this way more serious than most people out here. If you learn how to master skills, master fundamentals, right? You'll build a confidence, a swagger in yourself that just naturally projects to the other players around you. Whether you're shooting around or actual in-game in competition, right? The fact that you've gone through the process, the right process, you've put in the hard work, you've delayed that gratification. Now you're on the court, now it's time to show all of that hard work that you've put in, and now it's time to sort of glean the rewards of all that hard work. You're going to have that confidence, that swagger, and it's going to just naturally project to many of the other players out here, that you have a confidence, or earned confidence, not a fake swagger, but a real confidence that you earned, and people are just going to feel that from you, see it from you. Not only can that be kind of intimidating, but not necessarily like in a bad way. It's kind of almost like awe-inspiring. Like I don't know anything. Like they'll think of you, they'll see you, and they'll think to themselves, I don't know that guy. I don't know anything about him. He's a complete stranger to me, but I can tell by the way he stands, by the way he walks, by the way he moves, by the way he shoots around. We haven't even played a game yet, and I can tell he's a super serious player who's he has this confidence about him. He has this swagger. There must be a reason for that. I want to either have him on my team as my teammate, or I want to challenge him to see what he's all about. Either way, you're getting playing time, which means you're getting experience, which means you're building your game faster and faster. So I want to thank you guys for watching. If you like this video, if you found it helpful, if you think it's going to help you build your game by focusing on fundamentals first, then please subscribe to the channel. Also, let me know down in the comments what you think. Do you think, when you were talking about outdoor recreational basketball, that fundamentals are that important, or should they kind of be overlooked? Like you should just be out here trying to have some fun and maybe build a little bit of a reputation for yourself, and it's not that big of a deal. Whatever you think, let me know down in the comment box. And here's the deal. If you hit that thanks button down below, every comment that you make will be highlighted. It'll stand out from any other comments. And not only that, but if you do hit that thanks button, it directly supports this channel. So anybody that does, thank you very much. As always, like, share, comment like I said. Make sure you hit that notification bell so you're notified whenever any video goes live on this channel. And until then, I'll see you guys next week.
I was the underdog, now I'm on top. I want the W, I ain't missing my shot. I'm in the end zone, watching the clock. I'm only heating up, I never stop.